So our third driver of pain is what I call system-wide pain. Really, too much information is getting to the brain, and the brain is just overwhelmed by this danger signaling and feels like it has to make pain. Uh, and so it's used to be called central sensitization because the central nervous system, the brain and spinal cord, literally change to allow more and more signaling to come to it. Uh, Now it's called nociplastic change. But basically, when things are going well, when we're not in chronic pain, we have those trillions of danger sensors throughout our body regularly being activated. Uh, but there are systems in place to limit much of that danger signaling, meaning uh, very few of those danger signals actually reach the brain because there's different areas that literally stop the signals in their path. And this is called inhibition. Uh, but with system-wide pain, there's less and less of this inhibition and more danger signals allowed to reach the brain so that the brain gets more danger signal information, it perceives more threat, it creates more pain. And this danger signaling, uh, increasing danger signaling going to the brain just has to make pain because of how it's programmed. If it's going to receive so many danger signals, it's going to make pain. But it could often be based on, again, the perception of threat, not that there was actual damage happening at the tissue. If the brain perceives it's under threat, it's going to make itself more sensitive. It's going to make the body, the nervous system, more sensitive. And it does that by taking away some of this inhibition. So the reality is sometimes the brain draws the wrong conclusion, and we can illustrate this with optical illusions. There's one on the slide here. If you were to be asked which of those lines is longer than the other, initially it looks like the top line is longer. But if you were to take a ruler, you'll see that both of those lines, the two lines that are parallel, they are actually the same length. They just appear. One appears longer than the other. So the point is sometimes the brain can draw the wrong conclusion. So it can sometimes perceive a threat, even though there really truly isn't a threat to you as a person, to you as an organism. And so we're going to talk about a very specific location at the spinal cord level first, which is part of the central nervous system. It's called the dorsal horn, and it's basically the entry point from the periphery, from the limbs, from the peripheral nervous system to the central nervous system. And this is one of the main entry points, one of the main gatekeepers, keeping away danger signaling. And it's at this location that changes happen to allow more danger signaling to get to the brain, which then causes uh, more pain. So here's a little illustration to try to explain what's happening at this very important area, the dorsal horn. Um, for the nerds out there, you can read the slide for some more of the details of what's happening for the neuroscience details. But in general, imagine a toll booth collector named Ali. Now, uh, that this is aging me because toll booths are being torn out for electronic tolling. But remember the day, look to some movies where there was a long, wide bunch of lanes at the toll plaza, and each toll lane had a gate and a toll collector. So imagine this toll booth collector named Ali was given the mandate to only allow cars from New York City to go up the northbound lane of the New York State Thruway. So Ali here, the toll booth collector, represents something called the interneuron, this very important nerve cell, and there's a bunch of these at every spinal level, is basically like a gatekeeper that is designed to limit signaling to the brain. So here you've got this toll booth collector named Ali. He's given the mandate to allow only cars from New York City with New York plates up the thruway. Well, he's getting so much attitude from everybody else, the non-New York City drivers, the New Jersey, the Pennsylvania, Connecticut drivers. So much attitude that he's fried and he dies. He drops dead. And so now without that toll booth collector there, all these other drivers um, from other states, the non-New York City, everybody now can go through his lane. And one by one, the gate goes up and down. All these prohibited drivers are now going up through his lane up the northbound throughway. Well, in time, people notice, hey, there's nobody at the toll plaza. Why don't we go to the other lanes? Let's open them up. So little by little, everyone's going through all the lanes. The gates are going up and down, up and down. Well, people get smart. They hack the system, and now they don't even have the gates going up and down. The gates are all locked up. So cars are now flowing. All these cars that weren't supposed to be going through all the toll plaza lanes. And now you got even more than cars. You got bike riders, people who aren't even supposed to be on a highway in the first place. These bike riders riding their bikes up the throughway. And there's such an onslaught going through this toll plaza that people are now going up the southbound. They're going north on the southbound lane. So now that you've got all these cars going where they shouldn't be. In a nutshell, this is basically what happens at the spinal cord level. These changes happen at the spinal cord level, at this dorsal horn area, to allow more and more danger signaling. So what was meant to have just a few cars, a few little signals go to the brain, the system changes physiologically over time to allow way, way, way more danger signals to get to the brain. And as that happens, the brain can't help but make pain. It knows I'm getting so much danger signaling here. I have to make pain. But you might be thinking, well, if the brain is making these changes to allow these signals and then it's feeling compelled to make the pain, well, why doesn't it just stop the signals from coming up? Well, and that's where we have to think about, what is the brain trying to do? It's trying to protect us. It's making this pain because it's perceiving threat. The more threat it's perceiving, the more it wants to protect itself. So the more sensitive it makes itself. So it becomes a vicious cycle. We're saying the brain has to make pain because it's getting all this danger signaling, but it is the brain itself that's allowing all the danger signaling to come up in the first place. And so again, sometimes like those optical illusions, the brain can draw wrong conclusions. We give the brain a lot of credit, as we should, but sometimes it can just, in drawing the wrong conclusions, allow things to get out of control. But we don't want to be angry with the brain. It's just doing what it thinks it needs to do to protect. So this is the changes that happen at the spinal cord level. Now we can look at the changes that can happen literally at the brain. And to understand that, we have to learn about a location of the brain called the somatosensory cortex. It's also known as the homunculus. And basically, it's a map of our body that's in our brain. So think of the game Operation, and just as parts of our body are activated, scientists have been able to discover this map of our body. And with technology, let's say our right thumb is being used or being touched. The technology is available for the scientists to know by looking at the brain map. Oh, the right thumb is being touched, or the right thumb is being used. So these maps of our body are very fluid, and basically it's like the brain and our body: use it or lose it. And so the more we use an area, the more defined the map of that area is. So for instance, what's been found with a Braille reader. So somebody who reads Braille is using their index finger to feel the little bumps on the paper. So what they find is people who read Braille have much, much more defined index fingers than non-Braille readers, and they're able to tell that by looking merely at their brain. Same thing can be done with instrumentalists, people who play instruments. Uh, People can be identified, oh, they may play the trumpet or another instrument that uses the lips more because they have more developed lip map in their brain body map there. So, but it is use it or lose it, and it's fairly quick in how the maps change. So go back to that Braille reader. What's been found is that finger of the Braille reader is very defined by Friday evening. But by Sunday evening, it's less defined. And why do they find that? Well, people tend to read Braille less over the weekend than they did during the week. So these maps of our body that are in our brain change fairly quickly. And the brain loves it when these body maps are very, very well defined. The trouble starts, or we could even say the pain starts, when these maps start to become blurry. So a less defined map, from the brain's perspective, is a threat. You're not using it much, and so the brain wants a very defined map. So sometimes the brain makes pain because of the blurry map in an effort to get you to use that area. Now think about it. When you're in pain, often we avoid using the area. Sometimes we have to initially with the fresh. But when it's chronic, you may have found yourself avoiding certain activities, certain movements. Well, in time, the brain takes note. Its map of that area gets blurrier, less defined. And often the brain is trying to get us to either activate that area or it's just trying to get more information from that area since it's sensing less activation over time. Another interesting thing that can affect these maps in our body is if nerves are being damaged. So if a nerve itself is being damaged, it triggers an immune response that actually breaches the blood-brain barrier. And that immune response can alter the map of our body in the brain. And again, with an altered map where it's blurrier, less defined, the brain views this as a threat and makes pain to get our attention, asking for a change, asking for more information. And this might be best illustrated by the scenario or the phenomenon called phantom limb pain. And perhaps you've heard of it, maybe you experience it yourself. If you've ever had an amputation or somebody who has an amputation, often a traumatic amputation, will feel pain in the limb that no longer exists. So here, a pure example, no danger signaling. Let's say a person's left foot was abruptly amputated. There are no more danger signals coming from that left foot. Yet that person can be in agony. They are not faking it. It is real pain. It's in pain. That person's in pain because that foot, that left foot, still exists in the body map of that person's brain. So the brain was used to getting all this signaling from that left foot. And then all of a sudden, it's getting nothing. Well, that's a big threat to the brain. What happened? Where's the foot? I'm going to make pain, the brain thinks, says, does, to get your attention, to let you know, hey, there's no foot, or I'm not getting any signaling. What's going on here? In time, that phantom limb pain can be minimized as the brain gets accustomed to the new reality there. But in treating persons with amputations over the years, they will note that phantom limb pain comes and goes and often gets worse when stressed and is sometimes soothed when they put their prosthesis on. So these maps of our body and our brain are very important, and changes happen. So part of that central sensitization or changes at the central nervous system that create the widespread pain, these changes can happen at the brain. And a very interesting point, we mentioned this complex regional pain syndrome. which is, again, a system-wide sensitization of the nervous system, which causes a lot of pain among other symptoms. It could cause tremendous swelling. It could cause changes in skin color, even in nail status. In complex regional pain syndrome, uh, those who have it in a particular limb, um, they will sense that that limb is bigger than their non-affected limb. So if somebody has complex regional pain syndrome in their right hand just seems bigger than it really is. And they've done studies where they have the individual look at their affected limb with binoculars. And as they looked with the binoculars at their painful limb, they felt more pain. But then, interestingly, some smart researchers said, hey, let's look at that limb in a reverse manner, reverse the binocular setting, so that now the limb looks smaller. When that happened, the person's pain level decreased. So, tremendous things that the brain can do. These maps of our body and our brain are very important. We want to make them as defined as possible. And basically, to do that, we have to use our body. So, those are the three types of neuromusculoskeletal pain, the three drivers. In our next section, we're going to look at strategies now for tissue and nerve pain.